I believe that Rings of Power cutting a particular Lord of the Rings character was the right choice, but he must be brought back for the upcoming Season 3. The Prime Video series has been heavily criticized for its various changes to Tolkien's work, and I agree that some of these adjustments were taken too far. Some felt lazy, while others I found to be completely silly. However, in some cases, I can see what Rings of Power was going for. If a big change adds something to a character's personal development, it's worth at least entertaining for a time. Galadriel's character has, in many ways, benefited from the changes in Rings of Power. Sure, I have found her gullibility in the Lord of the Rings prequel to be a bit frustrating, since Tolkien's version of this character would never have fallen for so many villainous tricks. However, Galadriel's connection with Sauron in Rings of Power Season 1, followed by her inner battle to cleanse him from her mind in Season 2, was deeply entertaining. It made Sauron's influence feel more tangible than ever before. However, this arc wouldn't have been possible if Celeborn were in Rings of Power's first 2 seasons. Celeborn's absence was good for Galadriel's Rings of Power character. She needed to be unattached. Like many other Tolkien enthusiasts, I was surprised to see that Galadriel was seemingly single when Rings of Power Season 1 kicked off. She should have been long married to Celeborn by this midway point of the Second Age. Of course, we eventually hear that Galadriel was married, but that she believes Celeborn to be dead. It's an odd change, but as Rings of Power Season 2 came to a close, I can see why Prime Video went that route. Galadriel's arc in Rings of Power's first 2 installments revolved primarily around her own personal temptations regarding what Sauron had to offer. In the context of the Lord of the Rings, that actually makes a lot of sense. Galadriel's most significant scene in the central series is her decision to turn down the One Ring when Frodo offered it to her. It was a major moment of resolution for her, and the decision even caused Galadriel to give herself permission to return to Valinor. It felt like a full-circle moment, and Rings of Power created a starting point that hadn't previously existed. Rings of Power has successfully established its own version of where Galadriel's journey of temptation got its start, and though I wouldn't go so far as to call it canon, it's poetic and entertaining. It also wouldn't have worked the same way if the Lord of the Rings prequel series had included Celeborn from the beginning. For Galadriel to have this journey, she needed to be unattached. A husband and daughter would have made her mission for vengeance, followed by Sauron's temptations, far stranger. However, now that Galadriel is on to a new stage in her story, Celeborn must return. Rings of Power can't leave Celeborn out for much longer. Celeborn's absence no longer serves a purpose. Martin Chokush as Celeborn in Lord of the Rings and Morfydd Clark as Galadriel in Rings of Power. Galadriel's arc in Rings of Power Seasons 1 and 2 only worked because Celeborn wasn't around. However, now that the connection between Galadriel and Sauron has been established, and now that she has resisted temptation 2 separate times, the last of which was far more definitive, it's time to bring this Lord of the Rings character back. I'm thoroughly entertained by the story Prime Video created here, but keeping Galadriel conveniently single any longer would be taking things too far. Celeborn must return in Rings of Power Season 3. Thankfully, this should be easy to pull off. Elves are immortal, and Celeborn's soul would have returned to the halls of Mandos in Valinor upon his body's destruction. When an elf has earned it, the Valar will provide them with a new body, and some even choose to return to Middle-earth after. If Celeborn fell bravely in battle as Galadriel suggested, he would surely be granted this honor. Galadriel and Celeborn's daughter, Celebrian, is another story, however. Regardless of how Rings of Power goes about it, I'm ready to see these characters sooner rather than later.